You're listening to WRCT Pittsburgh. You're about to hear an interview with WRCT alum Rosa Silver. My name is Liz. If you want to email me, my email is djlizmaday@gmail.com, and Maday is spelled M-A-D-A-Y. So that's djlizmaday@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in.
So my name is Rosa Silver, and I started out as a physics major and then transferred to art, and I believe I was the last one to get a degree in metalsmithing in 1986. And then I stayed on and was a teacher's assistant in the metalsmithing department and stayed on with RCT for another 6 months or so. After graduating, I stayed till Christmas.
So, you mentioned you're from Manhattan, and where you?
I'm from Manhattan, and I didn't know where to go to school, and I went to a high school in Soho with a graduating class of 19, and my friend was going to go to Carnegie Mellon because he wanted to study drama, and it was considered one of the best drama schools in the country at the time. And so, I don't know, because I wanted to do physics and art, it was one of the best schools. And I visited quite a few schools and applied to all these art schools, but in the end, I really liked Pittsburgh and I liked Carnegie Mellon.
So what got you into doing radio?
Well, I was, when I was 11 years old, I was at camp in the Berkshire Mountains. And I really don't like competition, and camp felt really competitive to me, so I kind of stayed by myself. And one of the activities was playing soccer. It wasn't soccer, it was baseball, and I didn't want to because they were really competitive. And then someone said to me, you could go off with this one counselor who takes solo people, and I think he takes some water skiing. And I was like, okay, and I went water skiing. And I'm not a big lover of water skiing. It's fun, but to do it every day, it kind of got redundant. And then he said, I think that they have a radio station just sitting there. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was addicted to radio at 11. I listened to all the 70s songs and sang along with all of them. In fact, I used to sneak out of the house and sneak into my mom's Pinto and listen to the radio, and then she'd get there and be like, why is my battery dead? And she'd go to run with her car battery. And it was because I would always sneak in and listen to the radio. So I started at age 11, and I think the first song I played, what I kind of remember, I'd have to look at the year, was Ballroom Blitz by Sweet. But I was so excited, and so then I just kind of forgot about it, but remained obsessed with DJs and radio. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to Carnegie Mellon, and they had the tables out, and I was like, oh my God, they have a radio station? I couldn't believe it. I was so excited, and so I signed up for 15 things, but of course, the thing I was the most excited about was the radio station.
Yeah. What was your main thing at WRCT? What'd you end up doing?
Well, okay, so I was thinking about this. So I arrived, and at the time they said that if you wanted to get involved, the first thing you had to do was do the news. And we had an AP wire coming in with stories, and so you had to grab the stories off of there, rip them off, and then put together. And then I remember you had to do it the way the world, the way the news is now, which is first you do the world and then you come closer and closer. So you do the world and then you do America and then you do Pennsylvania, then you do Pittsburgh, then you do Carnegie Mellon. I did the news, and then I was reading the news, and I remember there was this tall guy with red hair who would, he would be at the mic doing his show, and he'd be like, okay, now it's time for the news. And he was like, what's your name? And I said, Rosa. And he's like, well, what's your DJ name? And I go, I don't know. And he goes, well, here we go. We have the news now with Red Hot Rosa. And I was like, okay. And that's how I got my name.
Wow.
Yeah. And So I was doing the news, and then I saw the reel-to-reels in the production room, and I had been to a couple of, I have some cousins who were in the music business, and so I had seen reel-to-reels, and to me, like, the making of music was like, you know, it was like one of the highest things you could do in life. And so I saw those reel-to-reels, and I immediately joined the production team and got involved in helping with producing stuff. And back then it was, you know, splicing, which I thought was really cool. So you had to actually have a razor blade and cut tape and then tape it back together. And, and also, you know, in the DJ room, it was just 2 records, and it was like, if you didn't have a record queued, it's not like a CD where you pop one in and it's ready to go. You had to have the record turned, and it was like quarter turn back. And, so, and then I remember that I think the general manager at the time was Roger. I can't remember, but they were in like a back room, and I remember that there were telephones, and like, you know, they didn't have computers back then, right? So we had files and telephones, and it was a room with no windows. And so I thought, why don't I paint a mural on the wall? So I painted this mural, and I can't remember, I just remember something about a bunch of birds around a radio, and maybe that was in another room, and then I copied it in there. I can't remember. And then you had to take a test to get a license, and then you had to hang your license on the wall. And so all our licenses were on the wall. And then I applied for a show, and then I don't even remember what my first show was. I think it was Death by Droning Dishes, because I was really into The Cure and stuff like that. So I thought, sounds like music to do your dishes by. The Cocteau Twins, stuff like that. And then I decided, and then I became program director. Oh, and then I was like, so as an artist at the time, and I saw the schedule, and it was just this like simple piece of paper, and I'm like, what? It's a creative outlet. This is a radio station. This needs better. And so I spent so long making the next schedule, and then I made like a symbol for each kind of music. And in fact, I posted it. Yeah, I posted it recently, and somebody wrote, and they said, you know, they went, my God, what detail.
I feel like I've seen this. I don't know, maybe somebody else replicated the thing you made, but I saw something like this in a pile of old papers. Okay. But I feel like I've seen what you're talking about, with it's like symbols for different genres, right?
Yeah, all different symbols, and that was all done with press type. So I had to buy all this press type and press each one and line it up, and oh my gosh, it was a lot of work. This is all before computers, you know, so all layout was done by hand. And let's see, and then the cool thing was as soon as I got there, I wish I could remember the story of how it happened, but I remember it was definitely freshman year, and it might have been the first, you know, like before Christmas, but I was pretty fresh to Pittsburgh, pretty fresh to Carnegie Mellon, and I was new at the radio station, and I think I saw that the Kinks were playing down at the really big, the big place where I can't even remember what that was called back then, but it might have been not Three Rivers Stadium. I can't remember, but I have the pass. So I spoke to somebody, and they said, oh, just go as somebody from RCT. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And that was it. I got backstage. I got to meet Ray Davies. I got, you know, it was awesome. So, that was it. I was like, okay, I'm now using RCT to get everywhere and get backstage to everything. And then I started actually interviewing the bands when I went back there. So it wasn't just like hanging out. It was getting, you know, stuff for RCT. Wow. But I also was the head of hospitality for the concerts committee. So it was kind of cool to go back and forth between each one. And one of my favorite stories was that I think it was, so we had all kinds of really cool people into strange music on the air. Yeah. I mean, you know, there were people that were really into the Residents and Einsters and the Neubauten and just playing like sound and really I learned so much about music and got exposed to so much music that I'd never heard, even though I'm from New York City and I went to high school, people listen to the Plasmatics and stuff like that. But, there was a lot, one thing that's really cool about like community radio and college radio is the fact that you don't have to try and be a DJ. Like, you can do that if you want. You could try and be a DJ like you hear on commercial radio if you want.
Yeah.
Or you can be inventive with it.
Yeah.
Here I am with a microphone being broadcast, and I have sound. So there was a lot of art going on and creativity with sound and with words, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, if you think about it, this is it's not just a club, right? It's a place for being experimental and learning and there's so much that you're learning. You're learning about communication. You're learning about how to be clear in your language, how to, speaking, talking with the microphone, losing that kind of inhibition, being, there's just so much. And you could take it so far. And then there's management. If you want to get into management, and me being a program director, I was like, this is what I think should be on the air. Like, this is a standard that this radio station should have. And so I had everybody review I had them all record themselves and then come back and listen to it with me for 20 minutes. And then we go over how many times do you say, do you say the word like, do you repeat yourself? Do you use different various language to backtrack, or you just go before that, before that, before that? Do you play with the pitch in your voice? All kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I was probably more of a stickler than most program directors.
Yeah. Seems like maybe, yeah. Yeah.
And then I also, we were, this, what I was saying was, this was like my family, and we had so much fun, and there were such characters, and I really loved everybody, and we all really appreciated each other. Like, we knew that, the station needed everyone. Like, we were all very appreciative of everybody. And so I made this, this radio soap opera. And so I used all the DJ names and then made up this whole story that these people were running from the law, and this one was having an affair with this one, and this one got a sex change operation.
Oh my gosh.
It was really fun, and everybody really went with it. And so it was kind of like a little side project.
And you aired that? You had it on the air?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I wish I had copies. I have no idea. I'm starting to go through tapes to see what I can find. And pretty much it was like where we all hung out. At least I did, and a lot of people did. It was like, I lived off campus. I got to campus a little early, hung out at RCT. I knew I could study there or upstairs at Skibo if I needed to, on the gray matter, they called it. And then, go to my classes, in between classes, hang out at RCT. I'd get my food, bring it back to the radio station, eat at the radio station. And, it was, you never knew what was going to happen. And any time, one time, I remember I didn't even know this, and I got to the station, and someone was like, oh, Jean-Luc Ponty is walking around campus. And my roommate was the hugest Jean-Luc Ponty fan. I was like, oh my God, really? I got to find him. And so somebody said, oh yeah, he just showed up because he was playing in town in Pittsburgh, and he showed up, and somebody from RCT was walking him around the campus. And so I went and found him, and I got his autograph from my roommate. It's just random stuff like that.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask you was, well, you kind of already answered this a bit, but what famous people did you come in contact with because of WRCT? But it seems like there was a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah. I think I also talked about that the music that was happening in the local scene was really amazing. And the other thing is, okay, where Pittsburgh is situated, you've got like nothing till Philadelphia, right? And so every band back then was touring. And a lot of them would be just touring in a van. And like, you know, I mean, I'm still friends with these bands. Like they would be like, we had like $5. Like they would just be eating at McDonald's or getting those Debbie donuts, you know, living on those little Debbies.
Yeah.
I mean, and when they would drive through, it was like, oh, okay, like everybody stopped in Pittsburgh and did a show either at the Graffiti or somewhere. And, so, you know, and the fact that we had this incredible spectrum of interest in music, like I didn't know anything about, I don't know what it was called back then. It's called like neo psychedelia. So it was like this new garage psychedelic that had a comeback, and it was like in the 80's. And then there was this girl at the station. It was like that was her thing. She was so into it. I never knew anything about those bands. And then she was like, "Oh, this band," and she turned me on to them. And then I went and saw some of those bands, and I would have never known, you know. And they were great. And then they came to the station and we interviewed them, and I wish I could remember the name of the band right now. Some of those bands. And then there was like, I remember we had back then we had the Beaux-Arts Ball, and there was a band that would play, and one year they chose this band Blotto, which was like this hilarious band. I think they were from DC, and somehow they ended up staying at my house. So I don't know how that happened. But
oh my God.
That's, you know, and we got on the radio station, we got them to come in and do promos, and all the local bands came in and did promos on RCT, and they, you know, we would all go to parties, and it would be all the bands would be playing and all the RCT DJs. Everybody was just this love of music. And I feel like it was also a magical time in the 80's when it was still like, it was kind of post-punk, you know, right after punk, but hardcore was in, and it was this love of music that everybody had.
I was wondering if you had to describe like a typical WRCT person.
No, you can't do it, because I was just looking at pictures, and it's like, you know, you had the really like, just the tech, it's like a DJ. Because then you had the people who weren't DJs, and they were just tech guys. You know, like they just wanted to be tech. They just wanted to work on the equipment. You always have people like that at a radio station. They're not interested in being DJs. They're just interested in supporting it, and you know, they like the whole technical side of it. There is something amazing about building a radio station and keeping the radio station on the air. It's like you're contributing, you know, like you're doing the set design or something for a play. You know, you don't have to be the actor, but you know that we need that damn set design. And I'll tell you, with COVID, I have more appreciation than ever for those tech guys, because I'm trying to do this off my own computer, and it is so challenging to have a whole radio station in my computer. And I'm like, wow, thank you for those tech guys. Oh my gosh. Let's see. And then, Frank Zappa. Oh, and then there was the story about when President Mitterrand from France was speaking upstairs, and then all the security came down and they made us leave, and we were like, this is FCC, you're not allowed to kick anybody off the air. And so we had this whole confrontation going on with, like, who knows, the CIA. I don't know who the CIA. I don't know who was there, but it was guys with glasses on and suits who were like telling us we all had to leave because the station was underneath where President Mitterrand was. So it was a security threat to him. And I know that you can't just, whoever's on the air is a representative of the federal government, especially at that time we had gone to 100 watts. We had gone from 10 to 100. So we were more powerful. Yeah. It's hard to say who I met through the radio station and who I met through the concerts committee, because I have to say that Carnegie Mellon, I don't know, it seemed like this guy that I worked for was making the decisions. He got a budget and then he could hire who he wanted, but we got The Clash, David Johansen, you know, and then Frank Zappa came as a speaker, Leon Redbone, and so these are all people that I did their hospitality. So I fed them, got them towels, you know, things like that, water.
Wow.
And so the one I was going to talk about was Adrian Belew, who used to play with Bowie, and he was in King Crimson. And so this one DJ at the station was so excited that Adrian Belew was playing that he was throwing a big party after the show. And so I was feeding Adrian Belew and the Bears was the band, and I was feeding them. And then they said to me, so what's there to do in Pittsburgh? And I said, oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, what is it you want to do? And I mean, it was like a Wednesday night. I mean, you know, I don't know. You know, what do you say? I mean, you could go to the Dirty O, or you could go to Primanti's and get one of those sandwiches with the French fries on it, or, and so then I said, well, and then he goes, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to a party that my friend is throwing, another DJ from the radio station, because you guys are playing. And he goes, oh, can we come? And I was like, are you kidding? And so I'm walking across campus with the band, right? One of the guys in the band is like a bear. He's a big, tall guy with a beard. And anyway, and we're walking across campus, and then we get to this guy's, and he lived in a dorm, and I can't remember which dorm it was, but we decided that everybody would hide in the bushes except me, and they all hid in the bushes. And then he answered the door, and he was like, oh, thanks so much. What a great show. And he answers the door. And then I said, hey, I have some friends with me who want to come to the party. Is it okay if I bring friends? And he's like, oh yeah, tell them, where are they? And I go, oh, they're just around the corner. And then they just said, and then all of a sudden they come in, and it's Adrian Belew and the whole band. And my friend's face was like, his jaw dropped. He was like, oh, and they just came in and sat down right in the middle of the floor and for the whole party, and just took questions and drank some beers.
Wow.
It was, you know, really great.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then I think I told you the story about how we had all these jokes at the radio station. Like, one was we used to, like, lovingly make fun of the music director. And he was, you know, I mean, I was a little bit strict, but he was really strict and really pushy. And everybody there was like, come on, we're volunteers, like, we're doing this for fun. And he was like, we need to report to Billboard how much we're playing, and, you know, and play that new music, and, you know, and he spent all this time logging all the new music and putting it around and making sure we all played some from the new collection. And anyway, his name was Isco, Mark Iskowitz, and I know he stayed involved with RCT long after he graduated, because he was involved in the 90s, and I know he was at the reunion last year or a year before. I saw a picture. Anyway, there's pictures of us, and I remember when we were taking one picture, and everybody would just go, oh, Isco, like that, because he'd be like, I want you all to report, blah, 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 and everybody's, you know, like practically wanting to throw potatoes at him or something, like, come on. And then there's a picture of us, and we're all, I remember we were taking a picture for the yearbook, and so, or maybe it was for the newspaper, and we're like, what do we do? And we're all in the room, and we're like, okay, let's all look really normal. And then it was like, okay, now take a picture where we're not. And so we grabbed this piece of wood, and we like held it like we were going to hit Isco with it, and then everybody was like pointing at him. Like everybody's like, point at Isco, point at Isco. So that's one of the pictures.
Oh man, you still have that?
Yes, and I heard that he went on to work for Barbra Streisand. Yeah, it's like where you know, and I've continued in radio ever since. Right. Let's see, I worked at some news station, but I didn't like it. That was in upstate New York. I worked for FMU. I worked at a pirate radio station in Amsterdam. That was interesting. Everybody got arrested except me, thank goodness.
Amsterdam where? Like
Amsterdam, the Netherlands, yeah.
Wow, how'd you end up there?
Same thing. I mean, someone heard I was a DJ, and they said, "Oh, you should DJ on this pirate radio station in the squat," and I did. And I was lucky because it turned into a whole big political ordeal, and they raided the station and arrested everyone, and there was a big demonstration, and
wow.
And I was just there on a visa, so I was kind of like, I can't get involved in this.
Oh my God. Was this like a study abroad or after college or?
No, I just moved there after I got a master's, and then I was in New York, and my father died the day I graduated, and I was like living in New York, and then I was like, I just can't be in New York. Everywhere I looked, it reminded me of him. He just loved New York City.
Mm.
And so I was like, where do I go? And I was hanging out in Tompkins Park, and someone said, what do you like? And I said, well, I like the East Village. And they go, Amsterdam's kind of like the East Village. And I said, okay, I'll go there. And that's how it happened. And I actually moved there with my friend who went to Carnegie Mellon.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're still in touch.
Amazing.
And then from Amsterdam, then I came back to New York. That's when I worked for FMU, and they offered me to DJ, but I didn't want to do it. It was too far. It was like I'd have to get on, it would take me like 2 hours to get there because it was in New Jersey. So I didn't do it, but I helped them out with like some fundraisers and stuff like that. And then I DJ'd for, 15 years in Kauai at Kauai Community Radio. And now I'm at Freeform. And I've also helped out here at KBOO. I always help out radio. When iHeartRadio came along, I mean, to me, that's so scary. And also the whole political thing where someone can own multiple radio stations. And it's like taking away all the multiple voices, and multiple opinions. And the idea that some computer is deciding that you should listen to Beyonce and then decides it, and then all of a sudden, like 35 or 40 or however many radio stations are all hooked up to our Heart Radio, are all playing Beyonce across America. That just kind of freaks me out. Whenever I go anywhere, I always go to the bottom of the dial and see what I'm going to hit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, there is a picture that somebody sent me of X in the studio when, back in the beginning. I remember we all went to the Red Hot Chili Peppers show when they was their first tour, when they just had socks on. I have a whole, I saved some of my autographs. I have a bunch of them. Yeah, I mean, we have some, somebody loaded the sound bites, which is like the guys from the Violent Femmes. I remember them coming to the studio. I remember somebody at the studio interviewing Suicidal Tendencies. I don't remember if I interviewed anybody live. I don't know if I did that. I can't remember. The whole thing was like, one thing that's really cool about it is, some radio stations, they have like a separate room for interviews, and we just had the one little booth, and you had to stand up, although somebody finally brought in a bar stool, but you had to stand up, and it was these giant dials, and with 2 record players and a cart machine, and that was about it. And then there was a whole Rolodex of cards, and I remember you had to read 1 PSA and 1 promo for another show during your show.
Right.
Oh, and we had the golden cart. I don't know if anybody's talked about that.
I feel like I've heard of it at some point, but tell me about it.
I won one once. I remember I had it for the longest time, and somebody just spray painted a cart gold and gave it to you, and it said the golden cart. But it was a big deal at the staff meeting to announce that if you won the golden cart or not, who won it. And I think I told you that the general manager that I remember the most who was there, there was one that was there for 1 semester, and then the whole rest of the time it was B. Dale Garby, and he says he's going to come reunion.
I spoke to him. Yeah, I spoke to him last year.
Oh, cool. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I have his interview recorded.
Oh, cool. He probably had some interesting things to share.
Yeah, I do remember he did.
I mean, he was there a lot because he was in the office. So, you know, he was there. I was there more by choice. He was there getting work done. I remember he always had work to do, keeping that station, you know, compliant, probably with Carnegie Mellon. I don't even know about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you if you have any songs that remind you of your WRCT years.
Well, definitely that Bill Laswell blew my mind hearing that one.
Bill Laswell?
Yeah, the Bill Laswell song was the radio calendar. And so someone posted the alumni page recently. Yeah, you know, the other thing I was thinking about was I don't think that you had to be a Carnegie Mellon student to have a radio show, because I think that was due to the summertime when so many people left the campus.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, you know, there's quite a few people that were DJs that I don't think they were students, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we have we call them community members.
Oh, okay.
Who have shows, and they're just anybody who's not a student. And we have a core group of community members who kind of keep things running. Like they play a really big role.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Well, we probably have the same, so it's always been like that. So that's pretty dang cool of Carnegie Mellon to allow that.
Yeah.
Student activity fee that supports the station.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the community members can't vote, and there might be a few things they can't do. Right now with COVID, I don't think they're allowed in the station right now, so they're doing their shows remotely. Students are allowed in the station right now, like I'm doing my show.
Oh,
I'm doing my show in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I totally miss everybody hanging out together in the station. I miss that really bad.
Yeah. Oh, right.
We have a very active group chat, really people talking to each other all the time online. But that is really nice. It's something, but it was so fun to hang out in the station, and I feel robbed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I'm a senior now, so yeah.
Well, what our station did, the station I'm at now, is we started a Discord channel, and so,
yeah, that's what we have.
Oh, okay. And so we're all talking, and then it shows when a show is on, and then people put a lot of gifts on there about each show. When the show comes on, they throw SpongeBob dancing or whatever. But as far as the song, I don't know. I guess I think of I definitely think of Bauhaus.
Yeah.
What's that song from The Hunger? Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of The Residents.
I love that.
I remember when we all drove to go see Snakefinger in West Virginia. It's why was playing in West Virginia? I have no idea.
Oh my God.
I remember, and I think of The Cure, I think of, and Echo and the Bunnymen, Heaven Up Here, that album. Oh my gosh.
Oh, cool.
There was a DJ named Ophelia, and she played Echo and the Bunnymen and had the Echo and the Bunnymen haircut, and then a bunch of us from our drove up to Buffalo, New York to see Echo and the Bunnymen. And then, here's another thing. 6 DJs, we all got a house together and rented this big house on Shady and Avenue, which is still there. And we all that house together, 6 RCT DJs, and then all these bands started practicing in our basement. Oh my God. Yeah, and one of the things we did that was cool was every night at 11 o'clock, there was crazy TV in Pittsburgh, and every night at 11 they showed reruns of Star Trek. And so every night it was an open party to come and watch Star Trek with us. But it was there was beer and hard alcohol. And whenever someone said, "He's dead, Jim," you had to do a shot. And then if someone said, if McCoy said, "I'm a doctor, not a blank," You had to do a shot, and whenever a red guy was killed, there was always a red guy killed, in the red shirt, you had to do a shot then too.
Wow.
It's like drinking game with Star Trek. Like
wow.
Every night.
Oh, wow, yeah, I feel like 6 DJs in a house, you must have had really fun parties, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then, okay, so before we moved in, when we moved into the house, in one of the closets, we found a stack of like Hustler and Playboy magazines. So we cut them all up and glued them all over like wallpaper in the bathroom where these two guys were going to be.
Wow.
The crazy stuff we did in that house. Oh my God, it was so cool.
That's great. I love that.
And like, the Cynics practiced there, and then they became kind of famous, and Half-Life.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was cool. And it was a cool house with a turret, and and then this other band called Circus of Death. That was my boyfriend's band. He's practiced there all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and what else? What other RCT? I remember we all went to what is it called? Kennywood?
Yeah, Kennywood.
We had like in the summertime or after we graduated or something, we all had like RCT goes to Kennywood.
Wow.
A bunch of DJs. I have some pictures of that. We never painted the fence. We really never cared about the fence at all. We never really interacted with other clubs or anything. We were too busy with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a lot of good stories for sure. Definitely a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I told you the one about 1047 and the Yngwie Malmsteen one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the one, I'll just tell it quickly, that I think it was at Ben Opie's house, and Ben Opie was in car sickness, and he was like I think he had his own orchestra for a while, and great musician, and he had a party, and somehow we all ended up at the end of the night, like in his kitchen. We all grabbed all his pots and pans and all the like wooden spoons, and we all just started banging along to them and singing, and like, somebody had kazoos, and we called it the kitchen orchestra. And then we looked, and the clock had been all night. Everybody kept going, "What time is it anyway?" And we didn't realize till like 2 a.m. that the clock was broken and it was stuck at 10:47. So the next day, somebody made a cart that had Bob Dylan, everybody must get stoned. And then it said, here at WRCT, it's 10:47 all of the time. that cart stayed in heavy rotation. It could be played twice a day at 10:47, 10:47 tonight, 10:47. And I still look at the clock at 10:47 and I think of it. So that's the thing that sticks in my head the most from RCT. This thing about 10:47.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then we recorded. Somebody was like, when we were all playing that kitchen orchestra, somebody there, it might have even been Ben Opie, he was like, we should be recording this. And back then, you got your cassette player out and the microphone on, and we made cards of that.
Wow.
We labeled it like the RCT Kitchen Orchestra and played it on the air. I mean, how great is that?
It's the perfect thing to play on WRCT.
Yeah.
It's emblematic.
Oh my gosh. And then me and 2 other RCT DJs, we decided to form a band, and the lyrics were all from the National Enquirer, and and we called ourselves the Cogs, and then we did like these crazy photo shoots with like light bulbs, like trying to screw light bulbs in each other's ears, and like all dressed goth and like dramatic lighting. And then we did these black and white photos, and we hung them up all over RCT, like the #1 band at RCT, the Cogs.
Wow.
We like had practiced 3 times, and we had like 1 song.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you need, though.
Yeah. But, and then everybody would be talking about, man, I can't wait till the cog split. It was like an ongoing joke.
Do you ever play?
No. And I feel like some of these listeners would be like, what is going on at that station? But people just loved it. RCT was so loved. Loved. So many.
Yeah.
Especially the music scene,
Yeah.
What else about RCT? I remember I volunteered at, it was next to the Cathedral of Learning. There was a cool place to see music. Can't remember the name of it, and I think maybe it was Knocked Down. But anyway, I volunteered there to usher, and I ushered Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? The amazing guitar player who passed away. But I also ushered a Tom Jones concert, and I couldn't believe all the old ladies who showed up and started throwing their underwear and bras on the stage. That was great. Oh, and then the other thing was me and the DJs, we would all pile into this one DJ was named Gum Parker, and that wasn't his real name, but like he actually had something that was called a gum parker. It's like where you park your gum if you want to go to sleep, and then in the morning you can take your gum off and continue chewing it.
Oh my God.
So his name was DJ, his Gum Parker. Anyway, he had a big, like a Subaru or a station wagon, and, we would just pile in and go record shopping at 80's Records.
Oh, cool.
And I'd go every week
Wow.
to that record store. Yeah. And I think there was gyms too. And, we sponsored so many bands and,
amazing.
Oh, and the other story, right, that I was going to tell was the one about, that we had this poster, and I think it was on the ceiling of Yngwie Malmsteen, who's like this, heavy metal guitar player or something. I can't even remember, but nobody listened to his music at the station. But we had this thing about his name, what a name he had. And so we would all go, Yngwie, long live Yngwie. And it was like this thing of like worshiping Yngwie. And one time someone actually made a fire in the middle of the floor and was like, oh, all hail Yngwie.
Oh, man.
Crazy stuff. Yeah. It was really fun.
So
like somebody would do like a thing like, oh, all praise Yngwie, and then someone else would come in and throw in his 2 cents, and all of a sudden you'd have this group effort doing this totally whacked out comedic routine, and constantly entertaining.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I haven't stayed in touch with, barely anybody, but it's not like I wouldn't want to, and a lot of us are friends on Facebook. But, and definitely the RCT alumni page helps.
Right.
But, it's just, we didn't have phones. We didn't take a lot of pictures back then.
Yeah.
Even the bands in the station. I mean, I don't know where any pictures of any of those bands are. When you ask me, I'm like, it's not documented or anything.
Right. Yeah, hopefully a little bit of what I'm doing now will help to document some of this stuff.
As I just said that, I was thinking, I think there was someone who was taking pictures and putting them in a photo album.
Yeah.
It might have been ISCO, and it might have been B-Dale. Did you ever ask them?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know there are a lot of old photos in a Google folder.
Okay.
I don't know where they came from.
But I'm sort of recollecting, I mean, I remember somebody taking a picture of the mural I did. I didn't. Someone else did. I don't know where that stuff is. So there's some out there. This isn't related to RCT. It just shows you what Pittsburgh was like. But I remember somebody commissioned Keith Haring to paint all the, they were doing construction downtown, and so they commissioned him to paint over all the plywood that was up. And So he did, and a friend of mine who wasn't a DJ at RCT, but a big listener of RCT, he went and stole a couple of those in the middle of the night and made a table out of it.
Oh, wow.
God knows how much a table's worth, or, you know, what happened to those plywoods. I mean,
wow.
Now, Pittsburgh was doing a lot of really, I mean, what I loved about Pittsburgh was it wasn't a major city, and so it wasn't acting like it's a major city. And then it wasn't a little city, so lots of amazing art and stuff came through there.
Right.
You know? And, I mean, you had the Mattress Factory and the Andy Warhol. I don't think the museum wasn't there, but I can't remember what was. There was. I know it was the Carnegie Art Museum of Art was there too, and then there was like a gallery that was doing something that I don't think is there anymore, but it was something to do with the CMU faculty ran that gallery or something, or
oh, cool.
I don't know, but there was a lot of, like, you know, I remember the first time I ever saw Cindy Sherman's work was at the Carnegie, and there was a lot going on in Pittsburgh that was just really cool.
Yeah.
And accessible. It was so accessible. Like I said, look how I just got backstage at the Kinks. Like, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just was like, well, then if I'm doing that, I'm just going to keep doing it. And I did.
Yeah. That's
I think
awesome.
the Psychedelic Furs first album reminds me of RCT too. It's like everybody liked the Psychedelic Furs. Yeah.
Cool, yeah. If people are interested in listening to you, listening to your work, how can they find you online?
Oh, how funny. Look, I just opened my mailbox, and on top is a letter from Carnegie Mellon University, confidential. What the hell is that? Oh, my God. Confidential. Uh-oh. Okay, so, to listen to me, well, I'm currently on freeformportland.org, and I also have a Mixcloud account, and there you can listen to the archives of just the last. I've only been archiving the last. Well, no, you don't know actually. I'm gonna throw more in there from when I was a DJ on KKCR, because that was called the Loquat Lounge. Now I'm doing the Leptonella Lounge. And it's always comedy, and it's, you know, I study communication and I study peace and nonviolence, and so I play with that in the way I talk on the air. That I show a lot of my vulnerability, and I play with, you know, if I'm judging something, I like to play with it, because I don't like to judge anything. And so I try to open my mind while I'm on the radio. But, okay, so I didn't say Mixcloud. So the Mixcloud account is Rosa in Rose City or Mama Rosa.
Cool.
I think you can go to either one, or I think you just go to Mixcloud Rosa in Rose City, because that's where I am, right? It's kind of easy. Remember that?
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I was thinking if you could sum up for the listeners why someone should join WRCT, or why someone should tune in to WRCT, what would you say? It's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, well, I think the reason to join RCT is, first of all, it's not easy to find, you know, a group of people to be creative with, unless you're in, and even in the art department. I was in the art department, yet, you know, it was like I had my studio and we had our group, but, you know, it's serious because you're doing it for grades and stuff. This is just total fun and freedom to be creative. And the other thing about it is you can find your niche there. Like if you're really into data entry, radio station needs you. If you're really into learning more about, you know, production, radio station needs you. If you're into management, they need you. They have, I mean, this is an actual business. So it's got something for everyone. If they want some like on the job training. There it is. You just get thrown in like I was. I was just thrown into program director, and I was like, gosh, I don't really know what it is, but this is my guess and I'm going to go for it. And so, I mean, and that the statistics are by, something like Audible, you get 5% chance of learning the information. By writing it, it's like 10, but experiencing it goes up to like 89%, something like that. There's data about that. So, I mean, this, and I mean, it was on my resume. It's still on my resume and I still use it at all the radio stations I go to. I still say I was program director, and, so that's a reason to get involved, aside from the whole social aspect and everything that I talked about just being with a bunch of, and what I liked about RCT is it's a level of intelligence to get into Carnegie Mellon. So you're with a certain kind of person, it's not just a big hobnob of whoever. I mean, this is, people who go to Carnegie Mellon to me are people who know about working hard and see the benefit of working hard. And so everybody at the radio station are people who know how to do hard work and appreciate hard work. And so they're going to be willing to, there's like a willingness to like, yeah, I'm going to work hard at this. I'm try to do my best, blah, 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 that kind of a thing. Yeah. Being creative with a bunch of people who are into music, I mean, movies are made of this stuff, So, you don't have to be, Dali to be with a group of really interesting creatives. Like in a movie about Dali, there it is. Just do it. And without the pressure of having to come out with a genius creation, it's more like just experimenting and, your own personal best.
Right.
So that's my reason for being there. And then why listen to RCT?
Yeah, sure. Why listen to WRCT?
I just watched the movie The Social Dilemma, and that movie, I felt like what I got out of it was our attention is our commodity. And so basically all these algorithms are out there, and we're feeding into these algorithms, and they're taking all this data about us, how much we're on each device, and how much how long we stay on a certain web page too. And it's all being stored, right? In places, I live in Oregon. It's being stored here in Oregon. I think that's where Facebook's they're building another giant warehouse just for data. And when I watched that movie, I felt like, okay, so this is all these algorithms that were created however many years ago, and all the creators are like, oh my God, I didn't know I created such a monster. Well, not all of them, but many of them in the movie are saying they didn't realize it would lead to this. And I sort of saw in myself that I'm not an algorithm. I'm a human being. And what I have that makes me not an algorithm or not a robot is like the highest thing I can think of or the core is that I have creativity. And I have my humanness, which is mistakes. And that's what you're going to hear on the radio. And it's like to celebrate another human being creative and making mistakes, right. And it's like, what do you do with the mistakes? How do they handle the mistakes? And it's not only entertaining, it's also, to me, like, it's a learning experience to listen to WRCT, because this is people who are in their little niche, and they just, like my niche is 1968 to 1972, and I just spent today reading a ton about Motown and its move to California and how they intermixed different artists and how some artists felt rejected, and then I'm going to do a radio show about it. And it's like that to me is really interesting. And who says that doesn't influence all kinds of history that's going on? So the Kevin Bacon effect of this, as they say, you don't even know. I personally still remember some of the things that DJs said to me when I was in my, puberty years. I still remember what I heard on the radio, what some of the DJs talked about.
Right.
So, I love it. I just, something, and music itself, it's like, phew, the power of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially in these, like, I was just in a seminar today that talked about the need for human connection.
Right.
And, it's like listening to someone's radio show on RCT is like getting intimate with another human being.
Mhm.
People don't realize that a DJ is being vulnerable.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it might come from arrogance. It doesn't. It comes from experimentation and like, this is what I really like and what my little weird thing, they don't even call it weird.
Right.
This is my one thing that I'm kind of obsessed about right now.
Yeah,
and
like
I'm
in
gonna
love
put
with
it
something.
there. Yeah, and I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
And hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do.
Absolutely. That's so true. It's like kind of like pulling out your soul and showing people. And if you love it so much. Yeah.
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 So listening to it, like, Brené Brown's book, The Power of Vulnerability, there's a power in that, you know, and there's a power of receiving someone's vulnerability.
You just heard WRCT alum Rosa Silver, graduate from the class of 1986. You've been listening to WRCT Pittsburgh 88.3. My name is Liz. If you want to email me, my email is djlizmaday@gmail.com, and Maday is spelled M-A-D-A-Y. So that's djlizmaday@gmail.com. It'd be really cool to hear from anybody who is listening right now. If you want to check out my show, it happens Mondays at 3 and Thursdays at 4, and it's called Noise Theory. Stay tuned in to WRCT, and thanks for listening.